Hey girl, welcome back to season 2 of Connected Corrections. I am so excited to welcome you back. So much has transpired, oh my gosh, in the last 2 years. And in due time, don't worry, I will catch y'all up with everything that's been happening. But in the meantime, I hope you guys noticed the new setup. So much is going on in the background. I hope you noticed the cool new upgrades to the show. And I am working with a really amazing director/editor. I will tag his information below. But before we get into today's show, I do want you guys to head on over to Instagram, pause right here, and follow me on speak_Shauna Speak. Really want you guys to follow me over there. And you'll also notice that I've been using this tagline, motherhood doesn't have to suck. And you're probably thinking, well, duh, Shauna, it doesn't have to suck. But right now it really is sucking. And I hear you. But I really want you to know that it truly doesn't. And that is the new theme of the new season and moving forward. Motherhood doesn't have to suck. And I want to show you different ways in all aspects of how to reframe your mind to make sure it's not sucking for you if you're in the position right now to where it is. And I guess that kind of brings us into my 2-year hiatus. I was just in this really weird spot where I was doing so many of those positive discipline workshops. Yeah, I know that. I was hosting them online and in person. And I was starting to really get to a point where I was losing myself, my stuff, all of it in the background. So meanwhile, I was showing up for you guys, helping you guys restore your homes. My own home was starting to, end up in a lot of chaos. And it was starting to, if I'm being honest, just give me a little bit of PTSD from my teaching days where I was helping people and struggling on helping myself. And I just had to really come to a point where I just had to make a decision to go ahead and put my own mask on. You know how when you're on a plane and they tell you like if something's happening to secure your own mask before you try to help others? I was falling out of alignment with that, okay? I was helping everybody else. Meanwhile, I wasn't putting on my own mask, so therefore I was really, like I said, just not necessarily handling business at home. So just a little bit of that. Like I said, I'll fill you in, as the episodes go by, but that's kind of where my mindset was. But I just had to start using my own strategies for myself. And in the midst of that, I came up with the Mommy Mindset Reset. And so good, so good. I'll talk about that a little bit later in different episodes because, I'm just so excited to sit back down with you guys, get back in front of the camera and really just pick up where we left off, because truly this has been such a blessing for me to connect with other moms, other parents throughout their journey. And I'm really excited to get back to that. So we'll talk about the Mommy Mindset Reset a little bit later. But long story short, I did learn how to enjoy motherhood, but with more intention. Even when you're going through those moments that may not be so great or so picturesque, right? And like I said, I'm going to share all these things. But before we even get into that, you guys remember these 31-day cards, the parenting affirmation cards? Definitely bringing these back. And for those of you who are new, I created these 30-day parenting affirmations. And again, everything that I put out there are things that I have personally used for myself on my journey. Little bit about me. I have a 15-year-old, a now 13-year-old, and a 6-year-old, where last time we left off, these kids are a lot younger, but so much has changed and I've learned so much. But these, I feel like, foundations, I always go back to them no matter what, because even the best mother, or the one that you think you idolize the most, you'll start to realize that they don't even all have their stuff together. And I always have to remind myself that too. But nevertheless, day one, first card, I think it's a great place to start opening up this new season, but there is no such thing as a perfect parent. And what a great place to start, right? Because like I keep saying, even the mom that you think, because we all have this idea, right, of the perfect parent, or if in an ideal world, if I had money, if I had resources, if I had the house, if I had the career, if I had all the things, I would be this kind of mom. And realistically, I realized even that impossible person that you have created in your head, even she is not a perfect parent, because nobody is perfect, whether it's in your parenting, whether it's in your career, whether it's wherever aspect of your life, there is nobody that's perfect. And that's just what it is. So then when we try to put these invisible, expectations on ourselves on how we're supposed to show up or whatever, it takes away from really just being able to enjoy the messiness of motherhood. So again, I just always like to tell myself, no matter what, that there is no such thing as a perfect parent. And I really want you to hone into that as well. Nobody's perfect. So if you just remove that idea of perfection, you'll see how much burden gets lifted from your shoulders. I kid you not. And I got stories for days, but this is the first episode and I ain't trying to do too much. So let's get into our first topic. I want to structure this show in a way to where we do some girl talk, we get into maybe like a hot trending topic, but more importantly, I want you guys to write me. Let me know how you guys are feeling. I do want to have a section to where I give you guys a platform to go ahead and tell me some of the things that are bothering you. So that way you can see, because I know in our one-on-one sessions we talk about it, but to me it's really important to platform some of the not so, picturesque parts of motherhood, because you get to see that even someone with a platform or even someone that you deem as an expert, we're all going through the same things. So it's really important that, like I said, I have a section to where we get to talk about some of those things that are maybe not so nice. I know you hear them kids in the background. But I love that. And again, going back to there's no such thing as a perfect parent. Y'all know that I would pause this video and go yell at these kids to be quiet because they know they're supposed to be quiet while I'm shooting. But this is the messiness that I talk about. And these are the things, like I said, I had to retrain my brain about. I'm in Georgia. Today was supposed to be one of those days where it's just way too cold to have school. I grew up in New York. It was never too cold to have school, right? But nevertheless, they closed school today and they're in the house. They're used to going outside. So they've been inside all day. I'm trying to shoot. Perfect parent thinks, why can't these kids be quiet so I can do what I'm doing? But what are they doing besides being kids in their own home, right? So we're gonna keep that in there. I'm not even gonna edit that out, but it's just, again, to show you it's your mindset that's going to determine how you handle situations. Because this is something I could have easily gotten upset about and went in there to go yell at them. But all I've just learned is you gotta roll with the punches. But I am going to, give me 1 second. Y'all be quiet back there. Because mama's trying to work. But that is a great segue into this video I was watching. So there was this video with this guy, and let me pause it for a second. There was this guy, and I want to say, I forget, it's like one of those coupon, something coupon, like the video where she was like a extreme couponer and she rigged the system. I don't remember the name of the movie. If you remember the movie, go ahead and drop it down in the comments. But nevertheless, they clipped out this one part. Now, let me just, for those of you, if you're listening to the video and you're not watching me on YouTube, the guy is at the window seat And apparently there's a little kid in the middle and then the mom in the aisle. So the mom turns to the guy and she's trying to say like, hey, do you mind if my kid switches seat with you to watch out the window? And you would think like, as a quote unquote good person, you're supposed to give up your seat. But what the guy does is totally the opposite of that. And I watched it and I was like, ooh, this is a good topic. Let's get into this. And we can kind of go from there. But go ahead and watch this video with me, guys. It's really short. It's about 20-second clip. So let's watch this.
We switch seats just for this last part. She really likes to watch out the window as we land, and it helps calm her down.
Yeah, no, even if I wanted to switch, I think it's more important that your daughter learn a valuable lesson. That's not how the world works, you know, you don't always get your way.
Are you for real, dude?
Y'all, that is wild, because let me tell you something. I see this in two different ways, if I'm being honest. I first watched this and I was like, dang, what is wrong with just simply switching a seat with a kid, right? It's not a big deal. But then I started to think like, wait a minute, why should he have to switch seats? Or why did she have the expectation of someone who may have paid for their seat is going to just up and give their seat up because your child wants to see out the window? Like, the nerve of the woman, right? But again, just some background information, y'all know from the positive discipline. I'm like, how would someone who practices positive discipline handle this? And it really went back to exactly what the man said. Sometimes in life, you have to learn those hard lessons of you don't always get what you want simply because you asked for it. And that might be a tough pill to swallow. And that might be a good one to drop in the comments. What would you have done if, two ways. What would you have done if someone wanted you to give up your seat? Would you have switched seats with the kid to let them see out the window? And then if you were now the parent, how would you handle your child not getting what they wanted, you know, even though you thought it would have been, I guess, the nice thing to do, whatever the case is. But I think from the positive discipline mind frame, and I use positive discipline. I know we are in the era of talking about like, what do they call it? Conscious parenting, or there's another one, gentle parenting. And I don't like to use that because I feel like it gets such a bad rep of you just allow your kid to do whatever they want, or your kid is allowed to be a brat and, you know, you're softly speaking to them and, you know, tiptoeing around them. Where if anybody knows anything about positive discipline, first thing, it is kind and it is firm. So it just is pretty much just telling you that you don't have to be mean to your kids in order to get them to listen. And you know, I have this slide deck, which, you know, if you came to any of the workshops, you should already have this one in your possession. It is from the Positive Discipline Parenting Tools, which was, again, created by Jane Nelson. And I forget the other woman's name. And when I remember, I'll tag it below. But nevertheless, just talking about the different criteria, and there's really just 5 of them, which is just the core foundation or beliefs for positive discipline. The first one being it helps children feel a sense of connection. Again, the whole title of the show, Connected Corrections, right? In order for a child to feel safe or even be receptive to anything that you're saying, they have to feel like they belong and they're important to you. So if you're a teacher in a classroom, in order to get that connection with your students, they have to feel like they belong and they're important to you. Same thing like parents, if you're struggling with connecting with your kids, again, they have to feel like they are loved and cared about and that they're important to you. So that's number 1. Number 2, it's mutually respectful and encouraging, meaning it's kind and firm. So no, you don't get to just do whatever you want. No, you don't get to disrespect me. But in the same breath and the same kind of thinking, I am also not disrespectful and rude to you as well. Does that make sense? And I think sometimes we tend to either lead too firm to where now you're strict and impossible and nothing gets through to you, or you're too kind to where now, again, your child is running amok and you're being permissive. So it's finding that healthy balance in between. Number 3, now that was not me, okay? That was behind the camera. Behind the camera, that was, like I told you, my director, that's him trying to get about these squeaky chairs. Okay, y'all is not going to be writing in the comment that I was in here tooting on the camera. That was not me. Okay, guys? That's wild. Number 3, it is effective long term. Which is a good one because so many times in parenting, we realize that we're doing stuff for the short term. Your kid's crying, you give them what they want, right? Short term, you're solving the problem, but long term, you're creating a cycle of all you got to do is cry and I cave. So with positive discipline, you're always thinking long term. What are the long term lessons that I'm trying to teach my child? Number 4, it teaches important social and life skills, which again, what are you trying to teach your child long term? We want them to be decent people in society. We want them to be able to leave from our care, enter the world, and, have all those necessary social skills that are not necessarily taught within a classroom, but they do need to be socially taught. And then number 5, it invites your child to discover how capable they are. All right. So I think that's another good one. We sometimes take that away from kids by doing everything for them or setting up perfect environments for them to be able to thrive, not leaving any room for mistakes, not leaving any room for logical consequences, not leaving any room for them to learn how to solve problems, because we are the parents that are over there always manipulating their environment. When realistically they go into adulthood, they face a problem, and then now they're, what the kids call it, crashing out, because they've never had to solve a problem by themselves before, because mommy and daddy were always there. And again, I want you to hear what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with helping or aiding your children to make life easier for them. I think that's why we all work so hard, right? But we don't want to get so caught up in that to where we take away their ability to problem solve for themselves. And like I said, we just scratching the surface today. But to bring it back to, I guess, the instance on the plane, I think it's really important that we focus on building emotional regulation and respect for other people's boundaries. So, for example, in this, the child looked like, they were maybe 8 to 10 years old. I think in that scenario, there are different ways that you can handle it that would probably be different from, for example, if you have older kids or teenagers. So I can just kind of go, let's start with the young kids and then we'll go into the older kids. But number 1 is just making sure that you validate their feelings. So for example, even small children and teens, it works the same. It really does help when they feel like they are heard. Remember that belonging and significance, that first point, right? Making sure that they know that how they feel is important and what they think is valid, right? So even for that scenario, you can say like, I can understand why you would be disappointed. You were looking forward to maybe sitting by a window, and it's hard when things don't necessarily go as planned. That alone starts to build down that first defense, that first layer of defense where you want to naturally just defend yourself. You've already broken down that first barrier by saying, hey, I get it. I'd be disappointed if I asked for something or thought someone was going to, do a nice favor or whatever the case is. And they said, no, that is disappointing. So again, just validating that for them. But then model respect for boundaries. So instead of a parent now, you go into a temper tantrum of saying, oh, that's so mean. Why would he do that? Because remember, kids are always, no matter how old they are, they're always watching you to see what is the appropriate response for a scenario. So younger kids, they're looking over at you like, okay, well, is my mom going to cuss this person out? Is my mom going to bully this person? How is my parent going to handle this? And that secretly teaches me, how do I handle conflict? For your teenagers, they're watching you to say, okay, let me see how my parent handles this. So I know how, if I'm in a scenario like this, how or what is appropriate of how to handle not getting my way. And the last part is really just helping them to problem solve and move on from the scenario, right? For a younger child, I would say, or even both kids, realistically, like, okay, we didn't get to sit in the window. Maybe we can peek and see what we can see from here, or we're gonna enjoy our trip regardless. This is such a small part of the trip. What are some things you're looking forward to once we land? Shifts the conversation and you get to focus on what really matters, the actual time that you're spending with your child and the trip that you're actually ready to go on. And just reframe that. Again, I'm trying to say a lot of things, like I say, it's mindset. How are you going to attack the problem together instead of the problem being the thing that is the wedge between you guys? So that was a good one, only because I know that happens more than it doesn't happen, in the sense of maybe it's not the window seat, but it's, you know, the person in front of you in line, or whatever scenario where you think that someone has the obligation to be nice to you, where being nice is not a obligation. You get what I'm trying to say? People have the right to mutual respect, but they don't have to go out of their way to be nice to you. And I always, you know, maybe controversial, but I just always like to teach my kids that, like, nobody has to be nice to you. They have to respect you, give you respect, but they don't have to go out of their way to give up their seat for you, or they don't have to go out of their way to let you skip in line because you're a kid, or whatever the case is. So hopefully you guys were able to take in some of those strategies. Like I said, if you are interested in these positive discipline parenting tool cards, let me know down below. Shoot me an email, DM, whatever the case is. I answer them all, and we can get you those if you're interested in that. But moving on, guys, so much has been happening in the world as far as like news wise, and so many different things that I would want to cover. But like I said, I am so interested in this section that we are creating that is called the Ask Shauna section. And it is going to be where you, like I said, are able to email me some of your questions, or I will pull some of the things that you guys are saying from the comments and we get to talk about them aloud. And there are a few of them that I wanted to pull up. One of them being, let me find it. All right, guys, I found it. I had to do some digging in my email. I'm gonna call this person D, and D is writing me from Mississippi. Hey, D in Mississippi. I ain't gonna say your whole name, girl. Long story short, the question is it okay to let my teen fail in school if they refuse to take responsibility for their work? That is a good one, because naturally we want to, again, jump in, email the teacher, do all the things. And I'm going to say yes and no, right? Yes and no. And the reason I say yes and no is because, are we first taking the time to train the child on the things that they are supposed to do? And then we're in the stage now that you have gave them the tools and they're still not using the tools. Because a lot of times I realize that as parents, we're not taking time to train or set the child up for success. We're just giving them the expectation of they should know. But then think about it like this. How would they know if no one's ever taught them? I know we have the idea of when we were kids, we knew all these things. When we were kids, we knew how to do it. But a lot of that was driven in fear and intimidations. We feared our parents because we were going to get in trouble or get beat or whatever the case is. And so we did a lot of things in fear, not because we were actually taught how to do these things. So personally, the way I would do it is I would get to the bottom of, why are they failing school? Is it because they do not know how to study? Because even as a classroom teacher, I realize when we tell kids to study, we haven't necessarily shown them what studying looks like. So I personally would take a weekend or some time to sit down with my child, maybe get an agenda or a visual calendar or something to where you can say between the hours of this and this, you're actually supposed to have your notes that you have taken in school or whatever chapter you're supposed to be reading or wherever your teacher is getting their material from to read over those notes, right? That's number one, meaning you're teaching them on what it looks like to study. If the teacher gave out study guides, you're going over the study guide. And I say initially do it with them. This child may be in high school, I'm assuming because you said teen, high school, or middle school, but taking the time to show them what it looks like to study, getting them highlighters, things, showing them what it looks like, taking time to set that foundation of what studying looks like. Number two, a lot of these teachers post their things online these days. So I would either have a digital calendar or a visual calendar, depending on what works for your child, and outline the days they are having tests, meaning leading up to your test. Let's say you have a test on Friday. That testing week, we are sitting down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're making sure that you're actually actively going over that material. Okay? And then you would say it would be valid to say that they're not taking responsibility for their work only because you've actually taken the time to train them. But if you are setting the expectation that they need to know how to do this, whatever particular skill it is, but you haven't given them the tools to set them up for success, it's almost unfair. And you might say, but they're old enough to know how to do this. When they get on the game, they don't, we get into these type of mindsets, but then remember what we said when it comes to the 5 criteria for positive discipline. Number 3 is talking about, is it effective long-term? So you grounding them, you taking things away from them, all that stuff, it's not necessarily going to be effective long-term because again, you have not set that foundation on how to get them to be successful for the thing. And in this case, the thing is taking responsibility, whatever the case is, or, actually not failing in school. That's number 1. Now, the second layer to this, let's say you have taken the time, you have shown them how to study, you have went through the steps and everything. Then I would say yes, because sometimes that is the consequence. Not passing and failing and having to have that consequence is the thing, right? Because you've taken the necessary steps and measures on how to help them. And then sometimes it's just allowing whatever the thing to happen. And at the end of that, I know that a child does not fail and feel proud of themselves. So it's now saying, again, back to the connection piece, hey, you didn't do so well on this test, this particular thing. What are some things that we can do different? They're probably going to go into the fact that they didn't study. Okay, why did you not study? Is it because you just omitted it and you just didn't do it? Or is it, you know what I mean? And you get a chance to dig deeper. And again, on the front end, you might say that this is too much work or whatever, but think about it on the back end. What are you trying to teach this child long term? Because if it's to pass a class, then you need to instill the proper strategies on how to get them to pass a class, right? Without you over their shoulder. If it's to be responsible, then you need to show them the steps on how to be responsible, AKA tracking when they have important dates coming up, strategies on how to, again, remember those important dates to where they are following the steps. And then not being ashamed of reaching out to teachers beforehand. A lot of times we think that the older kids get, the more hands-off we need to be. What I've learned with a child that's a freshman, one in middle school and one in elementary school, is that your high school kids need you just as much as your elementary school kids need you, if not more. Because again, they're going from having one teacher in one classroom to having several teachers in several different classrooms with 7 different rules, with 7 different expectations. So it's really just laying those foundations of how to set them up for success. I think, or I would say, it is better to do the work on the front end, because then it builds consistency, it builds routine, and it allows you to, I guess, be a little bit less hands-on. But if you're not putting in that initial work, it's almost impossible to expect them to do the thing without messing up or not necessarily, doing it right, because there was no one there to teach them. So hope that helps, girl. And like I said, if you're interested in getting your questions answered on the show, just go ahead and email connectedcorrections@gmail.com. I check those. And if you're following me, like I said, on socials, feel free to go ahead and DM your question. And you can also have a chance of getting your questions answered live on the show. But that's all I got for you guys today. Like I said, I am so excited to be back. The goal is to drop 1 video a week. Make sure you guys hold me accountable to that. Life be lifing, but I'm here and I'm back, and I'm so excited to just get back to this, guys. I really appreciate you guys, and I can't wait to see you in episode 2. Bye.